Talk Radio.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
Are you ready for this? Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's Wednesday, July 22nd, 2015, and welcome to the BCS Experience. History, arts, culture, and politics in review and discussion. I'm Byron C. Saunders, your host with the most. The BCS Experience takes a look at our rich history, African American history. We're going to share with you some known and unknown historical facts and information from the past and connect the dots on how they have impacted on our present day events and how they will definitely shape our future as African Americans in this country and around the world. The BCS Experience. History, arts, culture, politics, in review and discussion. This is internet radio and will be aired live every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. from the studios of the Iron Metropolis Images on the GoPro Radio Network. You see, I'm really excited about this opportunity to talk to you all across the country and around the globe. I want you to tune in every week on your computer or your phone, and I want you to become a loyal listener, and I personally invite you to lend your voices to this radio talk show, to express your opinions on my weekly topics. This is social network radio at its finest. Now here's the number for you to call in to be a part of the discussion. Call 347-884-9839. Once again, that number to call is 347-884-9839. This week's topic, oh my goodness, Tour Atlanta's Rich Black Heritage. The Atlanta Black Tour follows the trail of Atlanta's African American history while illuminating Black life and achievement in the city from pre-Civil War to the present day. We welcome the opportunity to share this unique historical excursion with you. That's today's show. Oh my goodness. And you're going to love my guest because he's in charge of the tour itself. Anyway, my show is the new Underground Railroad Express. Next stop is your neighborhood. All aboard to freedom and to freedom land. But before we meet my featured call-in guest, a little bit of history so you understand why it is important to go to Atlanta and take this tour. The date, it's a Tuesday. It's December the 28th. The year is 1847. Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church of Atlanta was founded on this date in 1847. Known as Big Bethel AME, its beginnings started in 1840 when Colonel Lemuel P. Grants gave Ransom Montgomery and the other blacks property to build their own place of worship. A site was selected on Jenkins Street, where the church stood until Federals destroyed it during the Civil War. Colonel Grant returned the site to them, but it was sold and property on Wheat Street, later called Auburn Avenue, was purchased. In 1847, Bethel Tabernacle was officially founded, later called Big Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church. In 1879, the Gate City Colored School, the first public school for African Americans in the city, is founded in the basement of Big Bethel. In 1881, Morris Brown University is founded in the basement of Big Bethel AME Church. Mary McCree was the first principal. In 1917, fire struck the area known as the Fourth Ward, destroying most of the area east of Boulevard. Big Bethel was the only church in the ward owned by blacks and still standing. The church served as a hub for the gathering of large numbers of African Americans for public meetings between 1917 and 1920. In 1920, fire struck the sanctuary. Their insurance policy had expired the day before, and a tremendous debt was incurred to pay for the rebuilding. Between 1920 and 1930, J.A. Langford, a black architect, restored the church from the Victorian to Romanesque revival style. Crowning the newly rebuilt Big Bethel was a lighted cross bearing the message, "Jesus saves," on the steeple. The civil rights movement of the 1960s left a distinct impression on Big Bethel. A new black theology was flowering, and a more activist, liberation-focused church evolved. Big Bethel is the oldest predominantly African-American congregation in the metropolitan area at Atlanta, Georgia area. Recently, under the leadership of Pastor James Davis, Big Bethel just completed a $1.8 million renovation. The church is now accessible to the physically disabled and is home to a deaf signing ministry. Wow. That's the history of Atlanta, folks. Now, I want to hear from you. Let's connect the dots and make sense out of all of this. Let's talk. Call me at 347-884-9839. All right, tonight I have a very special guest that's joining me in my studio as a featured call-in guest, and this evening, none other than one of my bestest of best friends, Dwight McQueen. When it comes to executing a special event or an entertainment production, there is no one more experienced and creative as Dwight McQueen. Now, just so that you know who this person is, Events by Dwight McQueen Incorporated and today enjoys serving a host of clients across the nation. See, Dwight is very, very well versed at producing concerts and outdoor festivals with Earth, Wind and Fire, Jeffrey Osborne, Najee, The Temptations, Outkast, Jay-Z, Frankie Beverly and Mays, and many, many more. You see, Dwight McQueen is currently Southeast Independent Representative for Caesars Entertainment, Harrah's, Caesars Palace, Flamingo, Bally's, Rio, Paris, Planet Hollywood, and Imperial Palace, Las Vegas. Welcome, Dwight McQueen, to the BCS Experience. How are you, buddy?
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate those accolades and want to give a warm welcome to your audience.
Thank you so very much. Dwight, you're doing something extraordinary. Now, you know, I started us off with a little bit of the history that is inclusive in your tour, but tell me what got you into this business of doing history tours. Tell us all about how that started.
A funny thing happened on the way home one evening. As I turned the corner, I saw a billboard by Bishop Dale Bronner, who was one of the mega church bishops in Atlanta.
Yes, sir.
And the billboard read very simply, "What will be your legacy?" And I didn't really take it too seriously until I got home, and I really thought about it and said, wow, what will I leave? What can I leave? I mean, I've done a lot in Atlanta. I've given a lot, and I've also taken a lot, but I want to leave something after I'm gone. So
yes.
That's when I came up with the idea.
Wow. And I mean, it's interesting because you and I have known each other for 20-some plus years, even more than that, probably since 19 whatever, way back in somewhere late in the 20th century when I was in Atlanta running Just Us Theater, and you were down at Mr. V's the Figure 8 Club doing your thing. And I mean, this is old school stuff, people, so you know the history of Atlanta. You've made some of that history yourself.
Well, I've been here quite a long time. I came to Atlanta first time in 1979.
Yes.
Went back to New York, came back in 81, left again and came back in 84.
Right,
so I've been here since 1984.
Interesting. And the area for which you live is quite an interesting area itself. We know of recent stories where Friendship Baptist Church had to sell its property to the growing franchise known as the Atlanta Falcons, and Mount Moriah Baptist Church left its site. But tell us about the tour itself, because in fact, along the way, I'm going to give some history, and you tell me the story that you include in your tour. Because one of the things that's is incredible about your career, Dwight, is that in 1991 you started your company, Events by Dwight McQueen.
Right.
And today it enjoys serving a host of clients, as I rattled off some of them. And, now the tour, as I understand there, you have 3 basic tours that you give. You want to tell us about those tours?
Correct. The first most popular tour is ATL Black History Tour, the first one created, which is a 3-hour tour of African American history in Atlanta specifically.
Yes.
The second tour is the ATL Civil Rights Tour.
Yes.
And it addresses specifically civil rights history from Atlanta's perspective.
Right.
And the last tour is the Sweet Auburn Walking Tour, which is a walking tour on Sweet Auburn Avenue, which talks about the history of the great Sweet Auburn Avenue.
Yeah, and folks, so that you know, Sweet Auburn Avenue is recognized and was recognized as one of the richest black avenues in America. I mean, we're going to take a stroll.
Forbes magazine.
That's right, by Forbes magazine. That's correct. And we're going to take a stroll down that avenue. I've got another caller on the line. We got about another 3 minutes before we have to take a break. But I want to just play the piece that your minute and 19-second piece that highlights some of the visuals of the tours that you provide. So if Mel, if you've got that lined up, let's go to that and play that now, and we'll take a look at what the tour of Black and African American history in Atlanta, Georgia. All right, let's roll it.
Sounds good.
Wow. We're talking about now visually. See, we do live streaming here. So if you were streaming with us, you would see some of the places and faces of some of the touring sites that this amazing historic tour does in Atlanta, Georgia, that's featuring civil rights museums, featuring areas that we're going to talk about right after we come back from my break. I've got a phone caller, and who's on the line with us so that we'll be able to talk to you once we come back from the break. Good evening. Welcome to the BCS Experience. Who are you? Hello.
Good evening.
And who are you?
Good evening.
Oh, is this my friend down in Maryland?
This is,
Who is this?
no, this is Joan Cartwright.
Joan Cartwright in Atlanta, Georgia. Joan, welcome back to the BCS Experience. You were on several weeks ago when you were up here in New York. Joan, don't go away because we're going to take a break. And when we come back, because I don't know, do you know each other? Do you know Dwight McQueen, Joan?
Hi, Joan.
Hi, Dwight.
Well, good. We just made the introduction.
Do you know Michael McQueen?
We're going to come back, folks, right after this message.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
So don't go away.
Yeah.
We'll be right back right after these
All right.
very important words.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a great opportunity. If you have an event, product, service, talent, or something important to say, now is your chance. You can have your very own radio show. Whether you're just starting out or a veteran looking for a professional platform to enhance your presentation and following, the GoPro Radio Network is the premier place to cultivate and share new and exciting content. We can help you grow your audience and keep it growing long after your first broadcast. Now you have a voice. Call 212-696-8562 or visit www.goproradio.com and you'll be amazed at how easy and affordable it is to have your very own professional radio show on the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
We are an amazing people, rooted in Africa, the cradle of human civilization. Descendant of the awesome men and women who made a way out of no way. People steeped in the values of truth, justice, respect, harmony, balance, reciprocity, and order. But 400 years of enslavement, Jim Crow, and racism, fueled by the lie of black inferiority, have taken their toll. The result? Too much pain, too much hurt, too much loss. We owe our ancestors, ourselves, and our children so much more than this. Join the movement for emotional emancipation, healing, and wellness for Black people. Go to communityhealingnet.org and take the pledge to defy the lie and embrace the truth. That's communityhealingnet.org. Our children and our ancestors are waiting.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
All right, already.
Are you
We're
ready for
back
this?
on the BCS Experience. History, arts, culture, politics, and review and discussion. And I've got my good friend as my featured call-in guest, Dwight McQueen of Events by Dwight McQueen. It's a full-service special event firm that specializes in group meetings, themed events, entertainment, indoor and outdoor festivals, and most importantly, the tour of Atlanta's rich Black heritage, the Atlanta Black History Tour. Also joining me is my other dear friend from Atlanta, Joan Cartwright, who is a world-class musician, choreographer, or rather not choreographer, instrumentalist, and a musical genius. Joan, I'm glad the two of you all have met because there's somewhere down the line, part of the tour that Dwight gives is a tour of, he goes to the Peacock, the Royal Peacock Room. Oh my goodness, a lot of history there, Joan and Dwight. Anyway, I'm glad that both of y'all have called. Now, Joan, you're working on something yourself, aren't you?
Well, I was going to ask Dwight if the group Asala contacted him about doing a tour in September when they're holding the 100th anniversary of Carter G. Woodson. Are you familiar with Asala?
I've heard
Right.
the name, and I would love to do a tour for that group. Would I be able to coordinate something like that through you?
Well, I certainly can pass your information on to the planning committee. I sit on the planning committee, and I know that they're doing some tours. I'm not sure. I thought that it was yours. At any rate, I would like to make you aware of the Association for the Study of African American life and history.
Wow.
Oh, yes,
Very-
I am doing that tour.
Okay.
I am doing
Yes,
that tour.
I thought I was certain.
Perfect hookup. A perfect hookup.
Yeah.
There you go. See, that's what I'm talking about, folks. We connect the
That's
dots here.
excellent.
Right here on the BCS
And
Experience.
I'm the new vice president for membership for the Atlanta branch. So
Oh, wow.
you need to come and become a member of the
All right.
Atlanta branch so we can make sure that your tour is always a part of anything that
Absolutely.
happens in Atlanta.
Wow.
But
Excellent.
so that's an invitation to you.
All right.
And
Thank you.
if we could tell Byron and the Atlantans listening that on September 23rd to the 27th at the Sheraton downtown, the 100th centennial of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, ASALH, will take place. The convention will happen here in Atlanta for the 100th year to celebrate Carter G. Woodson, who wrote The Miseducation of the Negro, and the organization is the founder of Black History Month. So just go to www.asalh100.org. And Byron, thank you always for giving me a forum.
Well, it's my pleasure, Joan, to always welcome you back onto the BCS Experience. I got two more callers on the phone, but before we get to those callers, Dwight, let's take a little bit of a tour based on your experience of sharing with the folks who come and engage your services. Let's talk about some of the history that you share with them. Now, I'm going to give a little bit of history, and you tell me what you do with this particular individual. Okay, here's the date. It's June the 26th. The year is 1858. You see, on this date, Alonzo Herndon was born. He's an African-American businessman. Now, he was born in Walton, Georgia, on a farm near Social Circle to Sophie Herndon, and who was a slave. His father was Frank Herndon, a white farmer to who owned his mother. Now, the young Herndon was one of 25 slaves owned by his father who never acknowledged paternity. Now, I give you that little brief history because I got a lot of history on Mr. Herndon, but what do you do in your tour that's unique in showing the history about Mr. Herndon?
Great. I'm so glad you talked about one of my favorite mentors, Alonzo Herndon. We actually go over to the Alonzo Herndon home, which was completed in 1910.
Yes.
Alonzo Herndon married Adrian Herndon, his wife, who was actually a member of a Boston opera group.
That's
in
right.
Massachusetts.
Yes.
And she was ousted when they found out she was a Negro. They ousted her.
Yes.
And she later became a professor at Spelman College in the arts.
That's right.
He and Alonzo built this beautiful mansion right on the outside of Morris Brown College, and we actually go there, part of the tour, and we talk about the legacy of Alonzo Herndon, who was a slave who actually became a millionaire, and it's an interesting story how that transpired. He moved from Social Circle. When he was 20 years old, he actually left that plantation deliberately and walked to Atlanta, Georgia, about 30 miles east, which is now I-20, and learned the art of barbering along the way. He opened up barbershops in Atlanta, and later he actually built the most beautiful barbershop in the South called the Crystal Palace. It had marble floors. It had chandeliers. It had 30 barbers inside the barbershop. Now, in those days, men would go there, not Negroes, but men would go there for a bath, get their hair cut, whatever they had to do to clean up before going to the state capitol or doing whatever business that they were doing in Atlanta, Georgia. And his services provided that at that time. But that's not how he became a millionaire. He also listened to while those men were getting their haircut, he listened to what they were saying, and he learned about real estate opportunities. Old man Williams is selling his property here, or stuff like that, and he would actually go and buy the property, and he amassed a lot of real estate that way.
Yes.
Another way, he went to Wheat Street Baptist Church.
Yes.
At that time, they had a protective organization, a benevolent protective organization that would help you with the burial of your family and stuff like that. And he actually bought that policy from Wheat Street Baptist Church and started the Atlanta Life Insurance Company. That's how he became a millionaire.
Yes.
He had agents on Auburn Avenue selling life insurance all over the country.
That's right.
And just a very outstanding, smart, brilliant gentleman who was actually involved with W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington back then when they started the Niagara movement, which kind of like preceded the
NAACP.
NAACP.
That's right.
Yeah. So they helped a lot of blacks in legal battles and investments to the black colleges at Atlanta University at that time, and they were really the forefront of the civil rights movement. I'll put it that way.
Exactly,
because they invested into the community.
That's right, and the home is absolutely beautiful, and it's also to note that his wife, who was classically trained as an actress and singer, would come back to Atlanta, and in their home on top of the roof would hold soirees in which she did readings and opera singing. And I mean, this is the kind of thing you think only in the Harlem Renaissance that they had this. Oh, no. This was going on in Atlanta, Georgia. And so when you're down in Atlanta and you want to visit Black Atlanta, these are the places that you want to see. Okay, I got another caller on the line. Let's see who's on there. Okay. Area code 225. Welcome to the BCS Experience. Who's calling? Hello?
Hello?
Yes. Who's calling?
This is Derek.
Derek? Hello, Derek. What's your last name, Derek? Darian?
My name is Darius Queen.
Oh, this is a relative.
Darius.
Darius
is my son.
Oh, wow. All right, now. So we get two halves, both stereo.
Yeah,
now
Darius
we got
is the genius behind the website that was done.
Yes.
Darius is a recent graduate of Florida A&M University, FAMU.
FAMU
and
Rattlers.
He majored in computer science.
So it's as Kingfish would say, the offspring always spring off further from what they sprung from. Now, for those who don't know that, Kingfish is Amos and Andy. Okay, let's go take them way back, y'all. So, Darius, congratulations. Your father has been extolling your wonderful, amazing work on the website. I'm welcome to the BCS Experience, and as you can see, it takes a father-son team to make this thing work. Darius, do you do part of the tours yourself, or are you just strictly the technological side of the IT man?
No, sir. I'm definitely just the IT person.
Oh, you're the IT man. Okay, well, we give you your props. All right, I got another caller. Let's bring them in. 269 area group has actually secured you to do the tour for them when they're there in Atlanta for September. But we just went to Pascal's and had lunch or breakfast. Now this is the new Pascal's, because the old Pascal's was on Hunter Street, which was now Martin Luther King Drive, and this is where all of the civil rights, the leaders, Maynard, John Lewis, you name them, all met at Pascal's on every Friday morning breakfast. That's where they would convene and commit themselves to making change for America and Atlanta. But the new Pascal's is now in Castleberry Hill, and it's a beautiful site, hotel right across the street from H.G. Russell contractor company. I mean, these were partners who helped to construct Atlanta. So we're about to take that tour. We got our fried chicken. We're about to take that tour to the Atlanta University complex, where we've got 7 different colleges. Morehouse, which was built in 1867, Spelman in 1881, Morris Brown in 1885. Tell us about that tour, Dwight.
Right. Okay, so we start down that road leading to Clark Atlanta University first.
Yes.
Which is on the left side, and Clark Atlanta, which goes back to Atlanta University, really.
Yes.
If you visit that college, you will see a statue of W.E.B. Du Bois. It's a gold statue. Right. And we talk about the legacy of W.E.B. Du Bois, who was a professor of history at Atlanta University in the 1900s. And the first black man to get a PhD at Harvard University.
Right.
So we talk about him. We also talk about James Weldon Johnson, who was a professor at Atlanta University as well. His office was right underneath W.E.B. Du Bois, by the way. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of rich history right there at Clark Atlanta University. Clark Atlanta University today is one of the best filmmaking, radio media universities in the United States.
That's right.
There are more movies shot at Clark Atlanta University, and they're using their backdrop in their facilities than any other university in the United States.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
I know, because Drumline was there. Drumline was the site for Drumline and Morris Brown College.
Yard.
Yeah.
It's a different world.
Yes.
A lot of Spike Lee's School Days.
School Days, that's correct.
Tyler Perry uses it a lot.
Yes.
So there's a lot of projects that are going on. Even more recently, Ice Cube and Kevin Hart in Ride Along.
Right.
I mean,
Atlanta looking good, y'all.
Lot of projects.
That's right. Definitely.
So we started Clark, and then we move up. Right across from Clark is Morehouse College.
Yes.
Right across the grass.
Yes.
Now, in between that grass, that's sacred ground, because the first president of Atlanta University is buried there on that ground, and you can't walk on that grass as a student until you graduate.
Right.
Until you graduate. Then they have a ceremony, and you're allowed to walk on it. But Morehouse is right there next to it. Morehouse College is rich with history. We talk about Forbes Arena, where the dream team, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, the best basketball team ever put together, played right there in Forbes Arena. And that was left by the Olympics, by the way.
Yes.
For Morehouse College.
Yes.
We swing around to Ray Charles Performing Arts Center, which is part of Morehouse College now.
Yes.
Ray Charles Money, a man who was banned in Georgia.
That's
couldn't play his music, couldn't even perform in Georgia because he wanted to mix his audience and he wanted to support freedom fighters. But we go further to Spelman College, which is right there across from Morehouse College.
Yes.
And Morehouse, I have to say, is all boys, all men.
Yes.
And Spelman, all female, all girls. But they share a lot of events together and prosper together in education. Spelman College, as we know, was well supported by John D. Rockefeller's wife.
Yes.
John D. Rockefeller being the richest man in America during that time, the oil magnate.
Yes.
His wife supported and really donated a lot to Spelman College, and there are buildings named after her. But we know some of the great women that came out of Spelman and the great that came out of Morehouse, and we talk about that. Across from that is Morehouse School of Medicine.
Yes.
That's where you go to become a doctor.
That's right.
Pharmacist. Yeah. And there are great doctors in the medical field that are coming out of that school every year.
Yep.
We swing around to Morris Brown College.
There you go.
Morris Brown College, currently only has about 100 students because they lost their accreditation. But we believe and we know that Morris Brown is coming back with its accreditation real soon, and they'll have the 4,000 or 5,000 students that they once had at one time.
Yes.
And across from them is the Interdenominational Theological Center, ITC, which is where you go to become a minister.
That's right.
So that's a lot of HBCUs that are so close together in one area.
And we're talking about some of our most important civil rights icons coming out of these institutions. Benjamin E. Mays, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Thurgood Marshall. I'm talking about the who's who.
Dr. Martin Luther King.
That's right. And believe me, folks, this is not an accident. This is why when you go to Atlanta, you must take this tour. You must, forget about all the going to the Swan House. That's so nice. But for us as a people, you really want to go to where the history was made. And then there's Auburn Avenue. Now, when you take that tour and that walk down Auburn Avenue, what do you see? What do you take them to see it in this particular part of the tour? Take us down that street.
We have to say Sweet Auburn.
Sweet Auburn Avenue. There you go.
That phrase was coined by John Wesley Dobbs.
That's right.
And he was sort of like the mayor of Auburn Avenue. But early on, going way back, Auburn Avenue started with some great men that helped to build the business community and the political strength that it has today.
Yes.
And we talk about some of those great men. James Blayton was the first accountant in the state of Georgia who went on to become a professor at the Atlanta University and later bought a radio station, WERD, with about $40,000 to $50,000.
That's right.
And some of the great disc jockeys that he hired at that time was a good old friend of mine that's passed on was Jack the Rapper, which everybody knows.
Everybody knows.
Jack,
that's right.
And his great conventions.
That's right. I had Jill, his daughter, on this show a couple months back. We're talking about the book that she completed on her dad.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Ali Pat, who
we just lost him.
Ago.
Yes. Oh my God.
Ali Pat.
This is Ali Pat.
Yeah. Ali Pat. Everybody knows about Ali Pat and Hosea Williams, the buddies that they were, and how the role that they played during the civil rights movement.
That's right.
Was very significant. In particular, Ali Pat was the first black bondsman.
Yes.
In Atlanta. He was the guy that Dr. King and the NCLC sent to go get people out of jail.
That's right.
And he went to Tennessee and Alabama and Georgia, rural Georgia, getting people out of jail that were freedom fighters.
That's right.
Very dangerous job.
Yeah.
He did it.
He did
and
it.
he's also a great disc jockey.
That's right.
He's a great disc jockey.
I was on his show, radio and TV. Yeah, that's right. Now, when you leave there, you right next door to that now. Tell us about what else is on Sweet Auburn Avenue, because there's a lot there. I mean, you could take a tour there all day.
Right in that same building.
That's right.
In that same building where WERD was at the top of the floor, right below on the corner, Dr. King's office was.
That's right.
And Dr. King, the way he used to organize people to come to marches and stuff, he would go upstairs to WERD, talk about the upcoming event, and mobilize people through the radio.
That's
very
black radio
part.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's important.
Also in that building was one of the still standing Madam C.J. Walker salons.
Yes.
There's only 2 left in the nation.
That's right.
One in Atlanta, one in Indiana, where she developed her products and became a millionaire selling beauty products.
Yes.
But one of her distributors, that salon, is still there and is now a museum that you can see. And you'll see everything from the original hot comb and the gas stove that they used and all kinds of stuff. That Garrett Morgan, who was another black inventor from Cleveland, his stuff is there. I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah.
Also on Auburn Avenue is the Odd Fellows building, which is the professional building built by blacks, and you can see Negro faces built into the building. I try to point that out on my tour.
Listen,
which is very unique in itself.
Dwight, I got to take another break here, and when we come back, because there's still more to see on sweet Auburn Avenue. I mean, you've only gone down half the block.
Sweet.
Okay? So, stay tuned, my friends. Don't go away. There's so much more to learn about the history of Atlanta, Georgia from my good friend Dwight McQueen and his tour of historic Black Atlanta. We'll be right back on the BCS Experience right after these very important words.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
Why are you paying for radio? Are you serious? GoPro Radio offers content for free. Go to www.goproradio.com and listen to original, irreverent, and exceptional talk shows. It's free. Go to www.goproradio.com now. It's that simple and free. www.goproradio.com. Listen to the voices in your head. Oh, and did I mention it's free?
We are an amazing people. Rooted in Africa, the cradle of human civilization. Descendant of the awesome men and women who made a way out of no way. People steeped in the values of truth, justice, respect, harmony, balance, reciprocity, and order. But 400 years of enslavement, Jim Crow, and racism, fueled by the lie of black inferiority, have taken their toll. The result? Too much pain, too much hurt, too much loss. We owe our ancestors, ourselves, and our children so much more than this. Join the movement for emotional emancipation, healing, and wellness for Black people. Go to communityhealingnet.org and take the pledge to defy the lie and embrace the truth. That's communityhealingnet.org. Our children and our ancestors are waiting.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
All right, we're back on the BCS Experience, and we're taking a tour of Atlanta's rich black heritage on the Atlanta Black History Tour with our dear friend Dwight McQueen, whose tour is amazing. We're on Auburn Avenue. He's just taking us down basically half a block where we got the home of SCLC, where Martin Luther King's office existed. We got Madam C.J. Walker's shop that was one of only 2 left, and the Lilia Bundles, who's a dear friend, is the great granddaughter of Madam C.J. Walker. She's been on this show. So this is chock full of history. We're connecting dots for you folks. See, when you go out there, this is part of what the Underground Railroad Express is all about, showing you where our rich history is, the ancestors who we give honor to day in and day out. So we're back on Auburn Avenue, Dwight. Right across the street from there is the famous Wheat Street Baptist Church. Oh my God, Reverend William Holmes Border was the most prominent preacher of all times back in the late 50s and 60s. And not to mention that funky fish place down there on the corner where you can still get that fish sandwich. On Auburn Avenue.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about. All right, so we're in that block.
Right.
What else do we have to see
Right.
that extends from Peachtree Street all the way up? So take
Well,
us on the
you
tour.
still have those two funeral homes there,
Yes.
Hoger Brooks
Yes.
and Cox Brothers Funeral Homes, which
Yes.
goes back to the early 1900s. Both of them started by a black woman, by the way.
Okay.
Not the same black woman, but a black woman that started those funeral homes.
directors,
But
yes.
if you go a little bit further down, you'll come into, let's see, of course, like you mentioned earlier, Big Bethel.
Yes.
And I like to remind people that Big Bethel, the significance of that church, I mean, that church goes back before the Civil War in terms of its history. But I was there when Nelson Mandela was released and he became president. When he came to Atlanta, Georgia,
Yes.
he didn't want to go to a hotel. He went to Big Bethel to speak.
Wow.
And I was one of the fortunate individuals to be in that room when Nelson Mandela spoke.
Oh, my goodness.
And it
Amazing.
was one heck of a speech.
Yes, sir. Oh,
So there's a lot of significance about Big Bethel and a lot of great history. But a little bit further down, in the middle of that block, is a Silver Moon Barbershop.
Yes.
Started in 1904.
Yes.
And it's still there. It's not open, but I have my people look inside the window to see those old artifacts and what barbershops looked like back in
Right.
those days.
Very
I was
important
told
time.
that Dr. Martin Luther King used to get his hair cut there
Oh, yeah.
when he was a child.
Oh, yeah.
So then you go a little bit further down is one of my favorite places, the Royal Peacock.
Hello. Come
The
on.
Royal Peacock.
Talk about
Yeah,
some of the
the Royal
great.
Peacock was opened in 1937 as the Top Hat Club, and it was famous on the Sweet Auburn district, and it had a lot of life in terms of, and that was the place to go to have some fun.
Yes.
But in 1948, a lady by the name of Ma Cunningham bought the Top Hat and renamed it the Royal Peacock, and she put peacock feathers on the windows, streaming from the windows, and carpeted floors, and just all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody came to perform back in
right.
those days. Sarah Vaughan, Sam Cooke, Louis Armstrong,
Yeah.
and then later on, James Brown, Aretha Franklin, Gladys Knight, on and on and on and on. Black performers performed right there at the Royal Peacock.
Yes, sir.
So it's still there.
Yep. That's
And
right.
we want to maintain its integrity and maintain that history. Right next to it, about a block down, is the original building built in 1906. Alonzo Herndon, the slave who became a millionaire and
Yeah.
started the Atlanta Life Insurance
That's
Company.
right.
That original building is still there,
Yes, sir.
standing. And we're hoping that Georgia State University doesn't tear it down.
Right. We have to maintain the integrity. That's
that
right.
They will maintain that historic building and turn it into a museum, hopefully, one
Yes.
day celebrating Alonzo Herndon. But across the street is, like you mentioned earlier, the Atlanta Daily World,
Yeah.
one of the oldest black newspapers in the world.
That's
which
right.
was right across the street. And right next to it is the headquarters of the 100 Black Men.
Yes.
Headquarters
Yes.
for 100 Black Men. It's right there.
Yeah. In fact,
And then, of course,
the Atlanta Daily World's founded in 1928 by William Alexander Scott II, and who has a rich history in his family being involved in the civil rights movement as well. So I mean, this is
that
what
was the voice for
that was
black
it.
people, because we had no voice.
That's right.
Throughout the Jim Crow days.
Yes.
So that was the way we let out our voice, our communication, to let the world know what our thoughts were, where we at in business, in church, in education. And that was a great tool for us to get our voice out
Yes.
at that time.
So now you walk a few steps out on the other side of the Atlanta Daily World, and what do you have sitting there in that particular space?
You have a fantastic facility called the Apex Museum.
Hello.
And the Apex Museum is a place that I always try to get my people to, let's stop, let's go inside. It is a part of the tour. But they break it down into 4 divisions.
Yeah.
First, they take you from the start of civilization,
Yes.
where we started in Africa, and they tell you all about that, and the great kings and queens, and the how powerful we were during that time, and how we grew from that, and the kinds of things we actually invented back then in Africa. But and they take you all the way to the slave trade out of Senegal and some of the East Coast countries, and the that crossing of the Atlantic Ocean, how over millions of slaves make it.
Right.
And they actually built a boat there, a replica of the White Lion, which is one of the slave boats. And they show you how we were tiered as slaves and chained, and to tell the story of what happened on that boat, the middle crossing. So, and then they take you into the Sweet Auburn story on the other side of the building, which has one of the original pharmacies, Yates and Milton, which is right on the corner of the Artsfellow building in the 30s.
This is the Apex Museum is run by Dan Moore Sr. and Dan Moore Jr., who are very dear friends. I've had them on my show before, but you must go see the Apex Museum. Now, we only got about 7 or 8 more minutes left on this show, Dwight, and you still haven't told us. We got 4 minutes, as they tell me in the booth. Okay, here's what we haven't seen on Auburn yet. Still have the Martin Luther King Center for Social Change. You still have the home that Martin Luther King lived and born in. You still have Ebenezer Baptist Church. You still have the Civil Rights Museum, correct?
Correct.
I mean, this is amazing.
We really haven't covered all of it, but we're just beginning on Auburn Avenue. We go all the way to the King Center, which is now a very popular stop.
And it's the site for where Martin Luther King and Coretta are buried.
Started the Ebenezer.
Yes, Ebenezer Baptist
started Ebenezer Baptist Church, which is now a museum.
Yes.
And as we know, that was Daddy King's church. That was not Dr. King's church until 1960, when he co-pastored from 60 to 68 with his father. But right next to that is the gravesite where Dr. King and his beautiful wife, Coretta Scott King, now laid to rest. Yeah. And then across from them is an exhibit where you can see some of their artifacts and some of their history upstairs in the pavilion. Yeah. And if you go a block further, you will come into the birth home of Dr. Martin Luther King, right there on Auburn Avenue, where he grew up.
That's right.
So our tour really covers a whole lot in 3 hours. 3 hours is not enough, but we try to give you as much as possible.
Now, Dwight, we got to close with this, because you and I talked about this. And before you give out the phone number and how to contact you, in 2 minutes, let's talk about the Hollywood tour. Because the Hollywood tour, folks, let me just tell you something. Atlanta.
Wow, I got to thank my son. I got to thank my son, Darius, who came up with the creative.
Yes. Because this is what's important to note, folks. And I was a film commissioner for the state of Georgia for 7 years. And I can tell you, as being a part of helping to establish what is now Hollywood South, Atlanta, Georgia, part of the tour that you guys take is the tour to the studios of none other than Madea himself, also known as the studios for Tyler Perry. And folks, let me tell you, this is not an accident. Dwight is I mean, Tyler's got some of my best actors that came out of Just Us Theater that I directed, and Cassie Davis, Crystal Fox, who's on Have and Have Nots, Denise Burks, Valerie and Sheila Benning, who do all the costumes, Chandra Corelli. Folks, you can't get nowhere else like this. This is the Universal Tour of the South right here with my friend Dwight McQueen. Now, Dwight.
Oh, it's hot.
It's hot,
baby.
That's
hot. Atlanta is now the third largest city in America with films and television production. We are now number 3 behind Los Angeles and New York, and that is a major accomplishment. So, on our tour, we don't go inside of Tyler Perry Studios, but we do show where his studio is, along with a lot of major black films that have been shot in Atlanta, the locations of those films, such as Remember the Titans, the Jackie Robinson story, Ride Along, which is very recent, Queen Latifah's Beauty Shop. I mean, just on and on and on. Drumline, stomp the yard. My son created a beautiful website for that particular
What's the
tour.
website
and
address?
we're in ATL Black Hollywood Tour, which we haven't released yet.
Yes.
Because we're purchasing a new bus
Okay.
for that tour. So we're going to launch that part of 2016. And
I got about a minute and a half left.
Tour, but
I got about 60 seconds left. What's the contact information for your tour company?
Sure. 770-374-7476, and it's ATL, www.atl
90 seconds.
historytour.com.
All right, I got to close it out here, Dwight. Man, this is just the first of many opportunities for you to come back and be on the show. And we're going to hook you up with my producer because I think that radio show that you want to do out of Atlanta can be done right with the GoPro Radio Network. Anyway, folks, Dwight,
all right.
Thank you, partner.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for tuning in, listening in. Get to Atlanta, take the tour. All right, listen, folks, the BCS Experience is goproradionetwork.com, your social networks live talk radio show. Produced and sponsored by Iron Metropolis Images. Tylon Xavier Washington, my producer. Mel Alsop, my online engineer. And a very special thank you to the Jazz Lounge Project and Andrew Julian Myers for my fabulous show's theme music and the background music you're hearing. Hey, your support of Iron Metropolis Images is important to us, and there is a wonderful documentary that you need to get. It's called Disappearing Voices, The Decline of Black Radio. You heard it talked about some of that this afternoon on the show. WERD, Alley Pat. These were the greats, folks. And black radio is not dead. You can still get it right here. Buy this. Put this in your collection. Go to www.disappearingvoices.com
10 seconds.
and tell them you heard it on my show. Hey, stay tuned for the new shows on coming up in August and September on the GoPro Radio Network. I'm out of here. Peace and love, always.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Great show, guys. Thank you. Chock full of information. I'm telling you. My friend's got it going on down there.
We got a lot of coal.
Yeah.
People drive.
He's good though. He's got the background to make it work, and he's worked through the